Axolotl, the immortal creature of the ancient waters. In the heart of ancient Mexico, beneath the volcanic peaks of Popocatépetl and Iztaccíhuatl, there once shimmered a vast network of lakes: Texcoco, Chalco, Xochimilco, and Zumpango. Between their fertile banks, civilization was born. Here, the Mexica, whom we now call the Aztecs, built their legendary city of Tenochtitlan, floating upon water, temples rising from the mist like mountain spires of the gods. And among these sacred lakes lived a creature of myth, a being that blurred the line between god and beast, spirit and flesh. The axolotl, the god who fled sacrifice. According to the ancient Nawa myth of the five suns, the world was created not once, but 5 times, each time ending in fire, flood, or famine. When the gods forged the fifth sun, the sun we live under today, it refused to move across the sky. The heavens remained still. The gods realized that only a sacrifice could set it in motion, a divine offering of life to fuel the sun's eternal journey. And so, one by one, the gods offered themselves to the flames. But Xolotl, the twin brother of Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent, refused. Known as the god of lightning, deformities, and the underworld, Xolotl was the divine outcast, the one who walked in shadows. Fearing death, he fled, transforming himself first into maize, then into agave, and finally, into a strange water creature with gills like feathers and skin smooth as polished jade. When Quetzalcoatl found him, he could not bring himself to destroy his twin. Instead, he cursed him, to live forever hidden in the dark waters, a god immortal but imprisoned. From that day on, Xolotl swam beneath the lilies of Lake Xochimilco, reborn as the axolotl, the water monster. To this day, many still believe that the axolotl carries the soul of that divine fugitive, a symbol of defiance against death, a creature that refuses to grow up. Unlike any other amphibian, the axolotl never completes its metamorphosis. It is a neotenic salamander, meaning it remains forever in its juvenile form, an eternal child of the water. While its cousins, the tiger salamanders, crawl onto land and breathe air, the axolotl stays in the depths, keeping its feathery gills, its finned tail, and its wide, perpetual smile. This biological curiosity baffled scientists for centuries. When the first axolotls arrived in Europe in 1864, gifts sent to the French zoologist Auguste Dumeril, they were thought to be larvae of an unknown species. But 6 months later, to his astonishment, the larvae began to reproduce. They were adults that had never grown up. Even more astonishing, some of Dumeril's axolotls later transformed into terrestrial salamanders after being fed thyroid tissue from livestock. He had, unknowingly, discovered one of the key hormones that trigger metamorphosis, thyroxine. This strange amphibian, born of myth, had become a cornerstone of modern endocrinology, the science of regeneration. But what truly sets the axolotl apart is not its refusal to grow up. It is its refusal to die. When an axolotl loses a limb, it simply grows a new one. Not a rough, scarred imitation, a perfect replica, bone for bone, nerve for nerve. Scientists have witnessed axolotls regenerate their legs, tails, spinal cords, eyes, heart tissue, even parts of their brain. How? When an axolotl is injured, the wound does not scar. Instead, the cells around it revert to a primitive, embryonic state, forming a small translucent lump called a blastema, a living bud of potential. Within it, skin cells become muscle cells, bone cells become nerve cells, and all reorganize into a fully functional structure, as though time itself were reversed. This process is powered by a complex dance of genetic signals, especially WNT, FGF2, and TGF-beta pathways, many of which also exist in humans, but lie dormant. Scientists now believe that the axolotl does not possess magical extra genes. It simply knows how to unlock ancient programs that most species have forgotten. One of the biggest breakthroughs came when researchers discovered that if you remove certain immune cells, macrophages, from an axolotl before an injury, the wound heals with a scar instead of regenerating. This means regeneration depends not on what the axolotl has, but on what it chooses not to do. It refuses to form scars. It may even be that humans once had similar powers. Newborns, for example, can sometimes regrow the tips of fingers. Buried deep within our DNA may lie the same instructions that the axolotl still obeys. If we could learn to control these processes, human medicine could be revolutionized. Imagine regenerating a damaged heart after a heart attack, restoring sight to the blind, or rebuilding limbs lost to war or disease. The axolotl might one day help us heal ourselves. An ancient lake, a dying god. But while we search its secrets, the axolotl's home is disappearing. The lakes that once cradled Tenochtitlan have been drained to make way for the sprawl of modern Mexico City, one of the largest urban centers on Earth. Of the Great Lakes system that once covered the Valley of Mexico, only a fraction remains, the canals of Xochimilco, a mere 2% of the original wetland. The water is polluted with pesticides, sewage, and invasive fish such as tilapia and carp, species that devour axolotl eggs and young. The once clear canals have turned into green soup, choked with algae and plastic. In 1998, scientists counted around 6,000 axolotls per square kilometer. By 2015, there were only 35. Today, the wild population is critically endangered. Perhaps only a few hundred individuals remain. And yet, paradoxically, in captivity the axolotl thrives. Laboratories and aquariums across the globe breed them by the thousands. They are used to study genetics, neurology, tissue regeneration, and even aging. They have become, in a sense, the lab mice of amphibians. But captivity comes with a cost. Most lab axolotls descend from a few original specimens from the 19th century. Generations of inbreeding have stripped them of genetic diversity, leaving them vulnerable to disease and deformity. Some have been crossbred with tiger salamanders to restore variety, but at the expense of their purity. The lab axolotl is no longer quite the same as the wild one. Hope in new waters. Still, hope flickers like sunlight on the canals. Conservationists in Mexico are working to restore sections of Xochimilco using chinampas, the same ancient floating gardens the Aztecs once built. Farmers and ecologists are planting native vegetation, filtering the water naturally through reeds and volcanic stone, and creating protected axolotl refuges. Others have gone further. Near the National Autonomous University of Mexico, an abandoned quarry has been transformed into an experimental lake, clean, freshwater, and sealed off from pollution. Here, scientists have released dozens of axolotls fitted with micro-radio transmitters to track their behavior and breeding. For the first time in centuries, a semi-wild population is being reborn. If successful, these lakes could become the new home of a creature that once swam beneath Aztec temples. And perhaps one day, the god who fled sacrifice will rise again from the depths. Symbol of Mexico, symbol of resilience. The axolotl is more than a scientific marvel. It is a national icon. It appears on murals, coins, postage stamps, and even emojis. To Mexicans, it represents the country's dual identity, ancient and modern, fragile yet eternal. Its name comes from Nahuatl, the Aztec language still spoken by over 1.5 million people, ATL meaning water, and Xolotl meaning monster or spirit. Together, they mean the water spirit. Fittingly, the axolotl stands for survival. It embodies rebirth, adaptation, and the refusal to vanish, just as Mexico City itself was built on the bones of the old Aztec capital, still alive beneath the streets. Legacy of the immortal salamander. From divine myth to modern science, from sacred lake to laboratory dish, the axolotl's journey is one of transformation and the refusal to transform. It is a being that defies the boundaries of age, death, and even identity. Its legend began as a story of a god who hid from sacrifice. Now, it may become the story of the creature that teaches humanity how to heal. If we protect the waters of Xochimilco, if we preserve the fragile ecosystem that birthed it, perhaps the axolotl will continue to glide beneath the lilies, the living heartbeat of a forgotten lake, the whisper of a god who chose life. For now, in the cool, dark waters of Mexico, the eternal smile of Xolotl endures, a reminder that even in the face of extinction, some spirits never die.